Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chaldean Cultural Center weekly discussion series that is in collaboration with U of M, Detroit Center, Unique Voices in Films, and CMN TV. And today our guest is a great artist, which I always love to interview artists, Reni, especially someone who I know when he was a lot younger. I've written articles about him, and he's also my book that I wrote called Iraqi Artists, the Lives of Iraqi Americans, the Lives of the Artists. And so he's been doing this for a long time. And hey, Reni, how are you?
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm very excited to see how you've evolved since the last time we've connected. I think it's been kind of 10 years. I've been watching you evolving and doing more and more beautiful, amazing work.
Thank you. Thank you.
For a lot of our viewers, we have a lot of international viewers and a lot of people. I know you're a local Assyrian artist, but so if you can share with us your background. I know everybody locally knows you, but your background, you were born in Baghdad?
I was born in Baghdad in 1981. I grew up in Baghdad. It was a good life. I remember I was very young. I was still very young. My dad was, at the time, it was Iran war and Iraq war. So it was kind of struggle in a way because my dad was, constantly in army, back and forth in army, So, actually, I lived in Baghdad till about 90, I think 90 or 91 is when we left Baghdad. We left and we went to Jordan and to Austria, and then in 1993 we came to United States. So when I came to United States, I was only about 12 years old. I was about 12 years old. I started elementary in Detroit until about high school years, or maybe eighth grade, 7th, 8th grade is when I realized I used to like drawing. I started drawing. And that kind of started because my uncle, he was sort of an artist. He liked doing a lot of these landscape drawings and things like that. So this is how I kind of, you want me to get into depth more about that, or you want me just to
kind of... I remember that you mentioned something that, was it your teacher that discovered how talented you are in the arts? I think for you, it was just like you were just doing assignments or something, and then she discovered you.
It was mostly in the beginning was assignments. So we had assignments back in the days where I remember we had posters where we had to create posters for certain subjects that, for classes, and it involved a lot of drawings, even during the Christmas time. So at the time, before that, I remember I used to enjoy art. I used to enjoy looking at art, but I never knew that I really wanted to do art. I never thought I wanted to draw. So one assignment, and I always remember that as being like, that was like God sent, that was that moment where I felt like, what, God is like, this was the moment that God wanted me to start this life as an artist. So I had a teacher, Ms. David, back in the school, it was kind of like in a high school, I think like freshman year. We started doing these posters and projects where we had to come up with a drawing. And I remember at the time it was like, you guys remember Say No to Drugs, all these, advertisements about say no to drugs. And so everybody had to come up with a theme on how to do that. So at the time, I tried to be creative. I never thought I had it in me as an artist, but I loved art. And I said, let me try to do something with that. And that's when it really started. I did this poster, and I remember it was like, it won the first in the class, of my class. And I had so much attention coming from that, from the teachers, from the students. And I kind of felt something that was good about that feeling where, wow, like everybody actually liked what I did. Let me dig into this further and see where I'm going to go with it. So I started doing a lot of drawings. I started copying a lot of like comics and figures and things like that. And I went back to like old books, like classical, and I started doing a lot of drawings. But it was mostly like in high school, my art teacher said, you know what, you're getting really good since I've seen you. Now I want you to look into going, College for Creative Studies, CCS. and he said, this is going to be the school for you if you want to, you know, pursue art. So, and I did. I went to, you know, after I graduated, a few years after that, I studied at the College for Creative Studies, and that's when kind of my whole career started. And my dream was always to become a full-time artist. I never wanted to do anything else in life but that. So
I'm interested, how did
yeah.
your parents react to that? Like when you approached them that, you know, like our communities are known to be doctors and lawyers and business people. And so when you approached them about this, what was their reaction?
So I had good things going for me that way because my dad was actually an artist himself. He was a musician.
Okay.
So and most of my family, they're musicians. You know, my sister, she used to sing since she was a little kid, and my parents, my dad was in like some of the biggest bands that were back home. He used to play the guitar and sing, and my uncles, they're all like, you know, they play the pianos, and so I kind of come from an artistic family. You know, they have a music background. So, and my dad, he always supported me. My mom always supported me. I never actually had anything negative said about art career. You know, everybody was always supportive of what I did. So that was a good thing for me. So it's always good to have your family support. So
yeah, that's really amazing. It's a great point because it proof that look where it's gotten you, the fact that you have that kind of a support system. So your family supported you, and I know that soon after, because of the accomplishments that you were doing very quickly, the community also came on board.
Oh yeah, so I've always loved history, the Mesopotamian history. I've always loved our history since I was a little kid, and my dad introduced me actually more, and my uncles, because we call them umtanaya. They were like very nationalistic. They loved their nation, they loved their history and culture, so they kind of taught us all that. And they showed us where we come from, even though we were left there very young. So when I was introduced to my culture, I saw such a power and in that culture and that history, and I felt like, you know what? I said I want to actually reproduce some of these pieces that were done, you know, thousands of years ago, our ancestors. So, and I said, as an artist growing up, you know, nowadays, I want to see how it feels to do something like that and see how people react to something like that. So I got into doing a lot of these reliefs. I started doing a lot of sculpture relief when I was actually very young, even in high school. I remember I have some sculpture reliefs. And I saw that connection that our people had with that, and even other people had with our history. And I was just, I fell in love with this kind of work. I've always, you know, I did a lot of figurative in college and high school, and I've done a lot of other kinds of, you know, styles of art. But when it came to the history, it was something very special to me. It was a different feeling I had when I started doing that. So the communities obviously started realizing, you know, I started doing some work publicly, you know, restaurants and things like that, and banquet halls and, you know, community centers and foundations. I have work all over the place. So it just becomes like, you know, you just become more known. People will just see your work and will talk about you, and other people commission you. So it kind of grows as we go. So.
And I think I remember, I know that you don't probably do this anymore, but you worked out of your garage.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay. Now, I
for,
cannot remember. I've interviewed so many people over the years. I feel like I've been in there, but it's like I'm having this kind of experience where I was like, did I actually visit, or did he tell me and send me pictures? Did I end up visiting
you might have. I mean, I
think I did, because we live very close to each other. And I remember you telling me there are people, when they drive by and see you working, they're literally like, stop driving in the park, and then they get like this beautiful free show. So unfortunately, that's not available anymore. But I do remember, you know, now that I'm talking about it, I do remember that I visited, because it was just enormous, and the paintings and sculptures and everything that you had. And at that time, you were looking to develop a studio. Congratulations that you have. You said that you've done a lot of different projects, but I know you had a very strong hand in the Ishtar restaurant, correct? You want to share?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what do you do particularly for that?
So I'll tell you a little bit I'll go a little bit back before Ishtar Restaurant. So I've done some works. You know, ever since high school, I've always been doing work. I've always been, you know, creating these pieces, and I have some banquet halls. Maybe they're back in the days, maybe like in late '90s, even early 2000s. They were more popular. I've had some work done actually when I was very young, even in those places. So I have work people actually commission me to do privately in their homes and things like that. But it was never for me. It was never a full time. I was never a full time artist up till when I started doing the Ishtar Restaurant. And then even that Ishtar Restaurant was kind of by coincidence how it happened. And then it just, to me, I think like it's just God's way. That's how God put things in your life that, you know, it was not expected, but it was meant to be that way, you know? So at the time I was doing artwork in my garage, like you've seen it. But that was after work. I used to do like, I've done all kinds of works, you know, when I was in college. I was doing part-time work. Like I used to work with my uncles. They did like heating and cooling. I have like my uncle, he did heating and cooling. So I used to work with them to make some money because I couldn't make a steady income from doing art. It was still, my name was not known. I was still kind of struggling that way. I was selling some pieces here and there, but it was never, it was not to make a living off of it. So I was actually with my uncle, and then we were driving back home. He was driving me back home with his van. And then my dad, he also did like a lot of commercial work. He did like a lot of commercial paintings and like a lot of these designs, like textural walls and things like that. So by coincidence, he had met the owners of Ishtar Restaurant, Fadi and Ali at the time. And they called them to do some work inside the restaurant. And when I was going back home, my dad was called by my uncle to do the heating and cooling for this Ishtar Restaurant. I mean, artwork was not even a part of all this thing. So my uncle was about to drive me home. He said, do you want me to drive you home, or do you want to wait for me like 15 minutes? I just want to go inside real quick, give him like a quote and leave. I said, no, I'll wait for you. You don't have to drive me home, come all the way back here. I'll sit in the car and wait for you. So I sat in the car and I looked at the sign. It says Ishtar Restaurant. I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful name. Because it used to be called Sahara before. Right? It was called Sahara Restaurant.
Yes, you're right. It was. I feel like it was, it was like for a short time or something. I just mostly now remember it as Ishtar, but it was Sahara before that.
So I was waiting in the car. I'm not gonna take too long. I'm just gonna make it real quick, just to show you how God works His ways, you know. So and then he said, my dad called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing in the car?" I said, "Well, I'm just waiting for my uncle to, he's just giving a quote or something for them to do a job for them." He said, "No, well, why don't you come in, because the owner wants to see you. I told him about your artwork and he's really interested to see it." I said, "Okay, that's fine." So I walked inside. I mean, as soon as I saw Ishtar, the name, I said, you know what? I had so many things running in my mind that time.
Instant action, of course.
This thing. So I walked inside and he was talking to me and he said, "Oh, your dad told me about your artwork." I showed him some stuff on my phone. He fell in love with this stuff. He's like, "Okay, well, what can you do for me? Can you do some work for me?" I said, like, "What are you looking at? What do you want to do?" He said, "I don't know. Like, I'm not really artistic and stuff, but I love this stuff that you did, the culture stuff, and it kind of makes sense here because of the name." I said, "Okay, how about if I do a design for you on a computer and show you what this place would look like after it's done?" He said, "You could do that?" I said, "Yeah." So that day when I drove back home, my uncle drove me back home, I did the whole design. It took me about a day, and I introduced the whole design of the restaurant inside, how it would look like, just the way it looks right now. And this guy just couldn't believe it. He said, "This is going to be my restaurant." I said, "It's actually going to look like better than the computer, because it's actually going to be a real artwork that's going to be hanging on those walls, real stone pieces that's going to be sitting there."
You added so much to the experience, not only the name of the restaurant, but the experience, the artwork, along with, I believe, like, you're right, this was like divine intervention, how everything happened. Because going there, I think that also motivated them, the people that work there, the way they serve, the way they had the person doing the gahwa and all that kind of stuff. We've had hosted several artists who have come from out of town in Ishtar because of the experience, including actually, I just realized Heather Raffo, who is an Iraqi, she's an American, her father Iraqi. When she came here, this is where we went because of, again, because of the experience. And of course, right too. But your artwork there really leaves a very strong mark. And Ishtar, for people who are not in Michigan, it's a local restaurant, a local Iraqi restaurant, and it just happens to be in the city that has the largest population of Chaldean and Assyrians in Michigan. So it's kind of very fitting, right? It's very fitting, like that the restaurant is there and all the artwork and stuff.
A lot of people's life, believe me, a lot of people's life have changed because of that place. It taught a lot of people's, they taught themselves about the history and the culture, and they taught their kids. Because some people, they come in here, they from all over the country. You know, they come from Washington, from Virginia, from Texas, and they come into, you know, because my studio is actually in the same plaza as where the restaurant is. So they come to me and tell me how amazing the work is there. They love it, and how it changed their life because they never knew about their history. These people, they live back home never knowing where they came from and how strong and how powerful we were. So a lot of these people, when they looked into this artwork and they saw the pieces there, they started researching and looking and seeing and online and reading about this stuff, and they got into it, and their kids got into it. So it's like it was just meant to be. That place was meant to be in the right place. And after that, it was just God kept throwing things at me like that. It was just every artist's dream, you know. Ever since I finished the restaurant, my life has just been art. I never did anything else in my life besides art. Ever since that day, I've been making a living out of art, thank God. And I'm just living my dream. I'm in my own studio. You know, I don't work for anyone anymore. I work for myself, and I'm just more happy because, like, I'm actually doing what I love. This is what I love. I create these pieces and I make people happy with what I do, you know, and so it's like a dream come true. Ever since Ishtar restaurant was done, everything has been great for me, thank God, you know.
And I remember also that, you know, when I was interviewing you for the book, we had talked about, you had mentioned that you felt like art is very educational, and if people start learning about it, you said they will really get addicted to it. But it's kind of similar to what you're saying with regards to Ishtar. I believe that this book came out before Ishtar. I'm pretty sure of that because I saw the work happen afterward. Otherwise, I would have included it in here. But
yeah, I think that.
Yeah, and right now, everything that you have said really relates to what you said even before that you did that work, that you kind of are planting that seed for people to kind of connect to their history on a historical and a cultural level and on their heritage. So, and I had asked you, I said, so do you see your art as a form of service? Because you do bring up the fact that, you know, you are inspired by the fact that you are teaching people as well. So it's not just about that you're presenting this artwork and how much you love it.
Of course.
So there's another component to it.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about that? And how has that changed? I know we talked about other things about, like, because of what has happened to some of the things that you create, what has happened to them in Iraq. How has your sense of service even strengthened as a result of all of that?
So what I feel like is this. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but this is how I feel. This is how I see it. Because I was always that type of person where I followed a lot of art on social media because, you know, that's, you know, you see the whole world there. So I followed a lot of the Iraqi artists, and I followed actually the artwork in Iraq and how it was, you know, evolving, you know, and the artists, what they were working on the subjects and things like that. So I feel like this. I feel like when I did Ishtar restaurant and then all that publicity that restaurant got from you know, from their service and the experience that you have inside a restaurant from the art and food and all that stuff, it started getting popular on Facebook, and people all around the world start seeing it. It's social media. Everybody sees something you do really quickly. So I felt like after the restaurant, maybe it took a year or two. Now I see a lot of the Iraqi artists in Iraq, in Baghdad, you know, creating these pieces that are all related to our culture and history. And I felt like, not that I'm saying there was never before me, you know, but I felt like when I did that, I felt like because the publicity that the restaurant got, and then people started talking about it and showing it, and people, I used to get so many messages from Iraqi artists and people in general back home that follow me on Instagram, and a lot of their college students that were studying art in college. I have so many messages, personal messages getting from them, that speaking about how, how they really felt like they lost people like us back home, so creative people. We could have done so much for our country if we were still there, But I always tell them that, what, even though I'm here, we're connected with each other. I do stuff here that relates to our culture. And now it's like these same people, these same students that I talk to and try to inspire, I see them now, they're like, they have work in public. They have these pieces of art, like Hammurabi, and then all these the Babylon, Ishtar Gate, and all these things are just kind of blowing up back home now. I see it all over the place. Restaurants, there's so many restaurants now, they're being created.
Totally, I totally see what you're saying regarding, I've had the same experience where I have found amazing young people, and some of them might be right now from Iraq, who are archaeologists and who work in the Iraq Museum. And they're like keeping the practice of cuneiform and translating. I am so inspired and amazed by them. And I think that recognizing each other, that, kind of creates a positive energy, because there's been so much negativity, and we all agree, whether we are in Iraq or we are here, that part of the Iraq history, Mesopotamia, is really, it's underrepresented. And sometimes what happens is the wars and the violence kind of precede all things. But there are beautiful people doing beautiful work in Iraq. And like you, they have taken on, because they're very young and they know how to utilize social media.
My friends on social media.
Yeah, and they're like inspiring each other. So what you're saying is very important, because like now, with the internet, even now, because of pandemic, I know there's been a lot of negativities, but one of the positive things is that we can have people from Iraq that we can interview that otherwise we wouldn't have had the chance. So I totally agree with that. And thank you for inspiring people all over the world, not just in Iraq. Just so
my pleasure. I try, like I always say, every artist, when you are a true artist and you have a goal. So artists always have a goal. Artists don't just paint and draw because they are bored or they have nothing to do, or it's a hobby for them. To me, it's beyond hobby. This is my life, and I try to, if I don't inspire people by what I do, then I will never do it. So my main goal is always to inspire other people to do the same thing, So when I saw these messages and these people from all over the world messaging me and talking about how I inspire them to do the same, it's like, to me, that's like, it's like a dream come true. This is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted people to be inspired by what I do, not just to do it and make money and that's it. I'm making a living. This is not about making a living. This is about inspiring others, This was my main goal, at least, This is how I always looked at it. So I'm very glad, I'm very glad to see so many pieces of art created from our history back home right now. And all these artists coming out of nowhere. And even I saw one of the universities back home, they have this big Gilgamesh, statue standing with a lion. My heart, I'm like, oh my God, that is so beautiful.
I know. I want to say, everybody in Iraq, whoever is doing any of this similar work that we're doing, you really inspire us, and we hope that we are doing the same. And like I said, it's just very positive energy towards each other. But Reni, like if somebody wants to commission you for work, how can they get a hold of you? Like I know, I think you have a studio. What is the best way to get a hold of you?
So mostly, if people they don't live locally where I live, people that live locally obviously know where my studio is, and they always visit me here, and I've and see my studio. But for most part, other people around, mostly through social media, they message me on Facebook or Instagram, and we kind of connect that way. I give them my phone number. We talk if we need to get further into details and things like that. So that's kind of how people get hold of me, So it's mostly social media. People that don't know me around here, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if we can see some of your artwork. Are you able to change a little bit your camera direction? There's a set. Beautiful. Yeah. So you're in your studio right now, right?
Yeah, I'm actually at the studio, and this is one of the Lamasso statues that I've done.
Excellent.
This is just and I just actually recently finished a large. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead and tell me that. And then if you can share also about the painting. Did you do the painting in the back or, yeah?
I just no, this painting in the back actually was because I love Renaissance and I love all the old masters. So that's kind of like a poster I found a long time ago. I don't know where I was, and I bought it.
Because I know you do
So
a
I
lot
kind
of
of
paintings,
I have few.
religious paintings too, you do.
I do. I've done a lot of religious paintings. I've done a lot of historical painting. I've been lately concentrating a lot on painting. You know, it's like I've done a lot of sculptures all over the place. And usually when I do get commissioned, I do sculptures because, you know, sculpture is a lot of, you know, physical labor involved and a lot of work. And it's a lot of money that involves going through a sculpture and making a sculpture. So mostly I do some smaller pieces when I have chance, but for most part, when there's like a monuments or big pieces like that, it's only when I get commissioned to do it, and I will concentrate on those projects. But while I don't have these kind of things going on, I'm mostly painting in my studio. It's right now, lately, for the past, you know, couple of years, it's been a lot of paintings. I've done a lot of historical big paintings, you know, that's like all hanging all over my studio right now. So.
Look, you're making me, I'm going to have to make a visit there, okay? We'll bring the camera to your studio next time, okay? Because now I feel like I want to take a tour. So we'd be very happy to interview you again, and this time get the chance to look around in your artwork. And just last question before our half hour is over. So what is your dream now, Reni? I know that you created the studio that you want, that you're working full-time as an artist, and you're making your dreams come true. What's Reni's next dream?
Well, my dreams are endless. I always say, like I dream a lot of things, you know, but most of my dreams are very peaceful dreams. You know, like I want to inspire others. I want to teach a lot of students that want to learn how to do this. And my studio is always open for everybody. I mean, if you want to say my main goal right now, it's I want to create a lot of pieces that's gonna stay in our history long after I'm gone. You know, like I have a lot of pieces that I'm working on right now. I kind of want to keep these things even long after I'm gone, so other generations will come after me and see. Just like I saw our older generations and I saw the art that I was inspired by. I kind of feel like it's my duty to show a more of a modern way of doing things. You know, like I've done a lot of these replicas of our ancient history, but now it's like I'm doing the same thing, but it's mostly like modern right now. So you see all the lion hunts of the kings are hunting lions and things like that. Now it's like mostly like large paintings, but they're all realistic paintings. All these horses are, you know, alive and three-dimensional, and they just look more modern, but they have that, you know, classical feel to it. So my main goal right now is just like my dream is to one day I could, you know, have these pieces sitting in a museum and people enjoy them and kind of be inspired by them for future, you know.
Well, that dream is it's like a reality right now, but maybe more museums and more all over, like nationwide and international, because you're already inspiring a lot of people. Thank you so much. We look forward to continue seeing your work. People, like he said, that you can contact him through his Instagram or Facebook, and also just to even observe his amazing work. Okay, Reni,
come visit
the studio, okay?
I have so many paintings here.
Until I visit him again. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.